This video isn't going to be your traditional travel vlog, travel cinematic experience, although this is going to be a thorough guide to some of the locations that I've been to. This video specifically being the Galapagos Islands. Galapagos is hands down, well, maybe not hands down, but it's arguably one of my favorite places that I've been. Last year, I was able to take 5 to 6 months to travel. I did some locations in the States and then some in Central and South America. And the Galapagos Islands blew my mind. I really loved it. If you like this video, I'm not getting paid yet, unfortunately. So please subscribe and like the video, comment with any questions that you have. And yeah, hopefully I can keep doing these every week, different locations, and provide some value. And one day, maybe I'll be able to have some sort of a guide or something. So we'll see. But anyway, so the Galapagos Islands. I'm going to start with a brief overview, and then I'm going to talk about my personal experience of how I got there, what I did once I was there, some tips and tricks I ran into, and yeah, hopefully something to help smooth over your trip. There are about 25,000 people living on the islands. These people mainly live on 4 different islands: San Cristobal, San Maria, Isabela, Santa Cruz. The Galapagos Islands, it is a group of islands about 600 miles off of the coast of Ecuador, and it's made up of about 19 islands, a few of those being quite small. I'm not sure exactly what it is, if it's a combination of the climate, the protection, the lack of people, and it's probably some other science things that I don't know. But something very unique about the islands is the wildlife and the wildlife that live there. You can see in the same day anything from giant tortoises that live to be 150 years old to blue-footed boobies, the famous blue-footed birds that live there, to hammerhead sharks, Galapagos sharks, eagle rays, penguins, swimming iguanas. I mean, it really is amazing. And it's almost this like utopian place where human beings, there's only about 25,000 people that live on the islands. So not very many. But human beings and the animals, they live really like in peace. The islands, they feel very safe. It's like a utopian place, I would say. In my experience. Also, I'm a big water person, so I really enjoyed it. So let's talk about my path. As far as I know, there's 2 different ways to get to the Galapagos. One is via cruise. For example, you would book that online. You would fly down to whatever location they have designated. I'm not sure which coastal city they use for this typically. Maybe you'd meet in Quito, maybe not, I don't know. But you meet together with your group, and you get on a cruise, and the cruise would take you to the islands. The cruise likely would have an itinerary. You would stay on the boat overnight, and then you would go out to the islands for day trips. I did look at a few of these initially. I can't say exactly what their itineraries were, but I'm sure that the cruise would be a cool experience. It'd be cool to be able to stay on the boat. I'm sure it'd be nice because it would be easy. You wouldn't have to think through what you were going to do necessarily. A few downsides I would hypothesize of the cruise is, one, a little bit more expensive in most cases. And then 2, you don't get to control your itinerary. So even though doing it the second way, which I'm about to tell you about, is a little bit more legwork, you get to control what you do. On a cruise, I'm sure some of them are amazing. However, if I maybe got on, for some reason, a lot of elderly people go to the Galapagos, so God bless them. But if I got in a cruise with some elderly people and we were spending a lot of time lounging, I myself wouldn't have been satisfied. So first option is a cruise. Second option is to go there by land. You can either go there through 2 cities. You can go through Quito, the capital, which is a little more north, I think, in Ecuador, or you can go through Guayaquil. I selected Guayaquil because it was the shortest flight to the Galapagos Islands. Hindsight 2020, I don't think I would choose that again. I think next time I would choose Quito. But anyways, you choose one of those places, you fly there. I was in Mexico City at the time, so I flew from Mexico City to Panama and then to Guayaquil, Ecuador. I spent a few days there because it was cheaper for me to wait to get a flight to the Galapagos. And then you fly to either a small island just north of Santa Cruz or San Cristobal. Those are the two islands that are on the Galapagos Islands. One thing I want to note, hopefully this is making sense. One thing I want to note, and I'll make it brief, is when I was looking into going to either Quito or Guayaquil, I saw a few like classic travel vloggers talking about how, one in particular, talking about how what a wonderful tourist location Guayaquil is. I'm not saying this convinced me to go there, but I was like, oh, okay, like maybe there's some things to do there because I have a few days before the Galapagos. I don't think that's true at all. I found that the people in Guayaquil were amazing. However, it was one of the few places in my 5-6 months of travels that I felt a bit uneasy. The city got terribly impacted by COVID, and I honestly don't think that there's much to do there. That it's, no offense to the city, but I don't think it's a great place to visit at all. I didn't see hardly any tourists there, and there is quite a bit of crime there and things. So just keep that in mind. If you go to Guayaquil, you're not going to be doing much. That's why I think Quito might be a better location. So anyways, I went to Guayaquil. I was there a few days. Eventually it came time to my flight to get to the Galapagos. I caught an Uber to the airport, got my flight to the Galapagos. There were some sort of, I can't remember the exact amount. I think $200, I want to say, something, a tax to get on the island of the Galapagos that you pay in cash when you first get there. Make sure you have cash. Then you get on a bus that takes you to the south of the small island that you're on. It's a short ride. And then you pay a boat taxi to take you to Santa Cruz Island. And then once you're on Santa Cruz Island, you get on another bus to take you to Puerto Aurora. I said that wrong probably. It's on the south of Santa Cruz, and that's the main city on Santa Cruz. That sounds like a lot of logistics, I know. So airport, short bus ride, boat taxi, Santa Cruz, bus ride, Puerto Aurora. Sounds like a lot of logistics. In all honesty, it's simple. Once you get there, it really is simple. Just make sure you get your flight to, say you're going to go the same way I did, to the north of Santa Cruz. It's called Baltra Island. Make sure you have some cash on hand, and everyone's going to be like filing in lines to go where you go. And it was super easy. Make sure to check if you need any forms, how much that's going to cost. I can't remember exactly. And also check about the regulations of bringing things onto the island. That is a big deal. Don't bring food or anything weird. And it will be really easy. So I got to Puerto Aurora once I was on the south side of the island, and I got a hostel, where I stayed for about $35 a night, something along those lines. I think it was just the Galapagos Island hostel, I believe. And then from there, you have a series of activities that you can do on the island for free, or a series that you can do with the naturalist local guides. And both are cool. However, the guided tours by far are the most memorable. So a few things you can do for free on Santa Cruz. I just run them down quickly, but this applies to some of the other islands too. Tortuga Beach. There's animal life everywhere that you can photograph. I mean, like literally everywhere. There's some surfing. I surfed in Isabela and San Cristobal, and then there is some snorkeling as well. So I'm going to talk through the cruises, how those work. So we've gotten to Puerto Vallarta, the south side of Santa Cruz Island. We're staying in a hostel, hotel, wherever you're staying. There are local travel agencies throughout this city. They're locally ran, and they partner with local naturalist guides to take people on tours. What you do is you go to the agencies, you say, hey, I'm here on Santa Cruz Island for 3 days. I'm looking to do some tours. What do you have? They'll say, well, we have the Highlands tour where you get to look at giant tortoises and walk through some caves. We have Pinos Island dive tour. We have the Bay tour where you get to snorkel with Galapagos sharks, or we have XYZ. And you say, oh, sounds great. How much is the bay tour? And they'll say, well, it's a half day tour, so it's $45. And you'll say, awesome. How much is Pinos Island? Well, it's a full day tour, so it's $90. What comes with that? And they'll tell you what comes. You maybe get snorkel gear. If you're scuba certified, there's scuba tours, and et cetera, et cetera. And you just pay them and you plan your days that way. I found that it was really easy to do. I think this is actually an awesome thing because you're supporting the local people. You're on these guided tours. You're going out with a local naturalist, and it's amazing. So you get the insight to the animals. You get to see everything you wouldn't see on your own. I mean, it's a guided tour guide, and honestly, $45, $90, $80, whatever the tour guide, whatever the tour costs, it's well worth it. Like, so worth it. In the States, you would spend 2-3. In Hawaii, it'd be, for that experience in Hawaii, it'd be easily like a couple $100. So, or more. And also there is like a certain level of back and forth. Maybe if you're doing 2 to 3 tours, you can get a deal, something like that. I never tried to negotiate super hard because I'm there on their land, but you can still kind of converse about what the plans are. So you do the tours, and then, yeah, I'd say that's it. Each island, so the main ones that you can stay on, or the ones I stayed on were Santa Cruz, Isabela, and San Cristobal. Each one have different tours that offer different things, and each one has a different vibe. Santa Cruz is the most populated. It feels a little bit more the most established. Isabela is very remote, very small. Populace-wise, it's actually a bigger island, but it feels very small and remote. It's a lot more relaxed feeling. And then, even though they're all relaxing, but Isabela's special in that way. And then San Cristobal is kind of an in-between. That was actually my favorite island, but they're all amazing. So I stayed 4 nights in Santa Cruz. I got a boat taxi. You can pay. There's 2 boat taxis that go in between the islands each day. So I paid a boat taxi. I went to Isabela. I spent 3 to 4 days there. I got a boat taxi back to Santa Cruz, and then I got one to San Cristobal, and I stayed 3 to 4 days there. And then I got a plane out of San Cristobal, back to Ecuador once I was done. So I was there maybe 12, 13 days or so. And yeah, y'all can do it the same. So you get to either Santa Cruz or San Cristobal, you get the boat taxis in between, you do tours on each, you stay maybe at hostels or something like that to save money. And it's an amazing experience. I'm going to talk about 3 tours that really stood out to me. I did as much as I could. I was always doing something. So everything I did, I loved, but these stood out to me. First one, Bay Tour on Santa Cruz. This is typically the less extravagant tour, but it was cool for me, and I'll tell you why. I wasn't scuba certified, unfortunately. I highly recommend you are if you go. But I am a good free diver, and I could dive maybe 40 feet comfortably and just hang out. And I had a water housing, so I could take photos under the water. The boat captain for the Bay Tour, there was me, and then there was another free diver from Bali, and we really kicked it off with the boat tour, the boat captain. And so while the rest of the group went off on a hike, he took us to look for eagle rays and then to look for sharks. We ended up finding both. We found eagle rays, got to swim with them, which was really cool. These are amazing rays that they jump out of the water. They're spotted. They're beautiful. And then also the water was a little murky, but we came across a ton of Galapagos sharks that were feeding on a giant shoal of fish. So we would free dive, me and this friend from Bali, we would free dive about 30 feet down into thousands of fish where you couldn't see anything. And Galapagos sharks were feeding on the same shoal, so we were kind of in there with them. Anyways, that's not an experience for everybody, but for me it was amazing. I'll show you a couple photos, a couple clips. The water was a little murky, so it was a little sketchy, but it was awesome. and we were with the boat captain and naturalists, and I definitely made an effort to always educate myself on sharks and the animals and what's the best practices, and I've dove with sharks about 10 times before, so I'm no expert at all, but it was amazing. I felt totally comfortable. Galapagos sharks are very chill too. Pinos Island, that was also, I believe, from Santa Cruz. I think you can take that out from multiple islands, and that was just amazing all around. Went out to this island, dove in the morning. I saw a few white tip sharks. I'll show some photos. A bunch of green sea turtles, bunch of fish. We had lunch on the boat. We had ceviche, freshly caught. The boat captain and his wife cooked it up for us right there. It was amazing. And then I dove again in the afternoon and saw a bunch of cool things. Razor surgeonfish really stand out to me. Got a few cool clips from that. So yeah, Pinos Island, amazing. Last one, this was probably my favorite spot. If I could dive here 100 times, I would. Specifically get scuba certified in scuba. But there's this massive rock sitting off San Cristobal Island that's just jetting out of the water. I'll show you a clip and some photos. And it creates this channel in between the two rocks that is just like a highway expressway for animal life. And we did some free diving there, and it was just amazing. I just loved it. Saw a shoal of fish, green sea turtles, had a sea lion follow me around for about 15 minutes, just hanging out with me like a dog. I mean, that's the unique thing about animal life in the Galapagos Islands is they're protected, so they're not scared of human beings. So it's like we're just friends. It's super interesting, and it's really it's just a cool thing. So a few other highlights on the islands. I mentioned surfing, really cool. I met locals and asked them where to go, and I went with them actually on both spots. I paid someone in Isabela about $30 to take me out, let me use a board. San Cristobal, I just met some friends. Eating with locals. On island, the tourists, they all eat on like a strip, and they spend a lot of money, $20, $25 a meal. Well, if you go one or two more streets in and find out where the locals eat, it's $5, and it's normally a cookout. They got a fried plantain, beans, rice, and some sort of like beef grilled right there, and it's amazing. $3 massive beers, and it's just really fun. So I ate with locals every day. Taking photos, it's a photographer's dream. The wildlife, every day was the coolest day of my life, honestly. And like I mentioned, the utopian environment. So a few quick things I noticed and I want to recommend or talk about. One, get scuba certified. As I mentioned, I'm a good free diver, so it worked, but being scuba certified, I'll do that next time I go. Second, if you aren't comfortable with the water or the ocean, if you're scared of it, or if you can't swim, then one, I don't really recommend you go like to the islands until you learn how to do that. And two, I definitely don't recommend you go on a tour and you be that person, that tourist on the tour who's scared of the water, making a scene, and all those things. And I don't want to, I'm not trying to be critical, but in my mind, this is like going helicopter skiing without being able to ski. I mean, the Galapagos Islands is one of the best places to get in the ocean in the whole world. And so I personally don't understand why you would go there unless you're comfortable getting in the ocean. And that's something that you can learn and you can work up to, and you can even work in your local pool and just get comfortable in the water. So when you go there, you can actually experience it, and you can just really treat that experience with dignity. And then on that note, though, beyond that, I only saw that once or twice with a few tourists. I would say, on the other hand, contrary, most tourists are really good. I think not many of them go by land like I did. A lot of them stay on cruise ships. And then there also aren't that many of them in general. And so I didn't find that tourists were really annoying or disrespectful, such as I found maybe like in Mexico, in Puerto Escondido. There were tourists that were super annoying, but in Galapagos I felt like they were really good and respectful, and I think that's super important. So that was a lot. Actually, there's one other thing. I was going to say cost. Galapagos Islands is not the cheapest vacation tourist destination. I mean, Mexico certainly was cheaper. However, the Galapagos Islands doesn't have to be as expensive as you think when you look online. It just comes down to correct planning, and then also just compromises. You know, am I staying in a hostel, a nice hotel? Am I getting the massage, or am I going to the free beach? Am I eating with the locals, or am I eating in the fancy restaurant? Those things add up. You know, am I planning out my flights? And I don't know my total cost. I'd have to look it up, but it was not the price of the cruise, not even close. So I definitely did it on the cheap. So in summary, I talked about getting there. I flew to Guayaquil. You could fly from the States or wherever you are. I was in Mexico. I flew to Guayaquil, and then I flew to the small island right by Santa Cruz. I stayed on Santa Cruz first. I hopped on a boat taxi to Isabela, spent some time there, and then I hopped on 2 taxis to get me over to San Cristobal, and I spent some time there, and then I flew home from San Cristobal or back to Ecuador, and then I flew to my next location. I went to Costa Rica. And on each island, I did cruises. I spent time with the locals. I took photos of the wildlife. I just had a really great and amazing time. So I know that was kind of like a summary. It makes me miss the Galapagos Islands talking about it. It's sounds cheesy. It's almost like a sacred place, honestly. So this was my experience. If you have any questions, ask them in the caption comments, and I'll try to answer some specific questions about costs or where to stay. I think you can't go wrong whatever you do, as long as you treat the wildlife and the local people with respect, and just have an amazing time. So like I mentioned, I just did this for free. I think this was a pretty thorough guide. It was like 25 minutes long. It's pretty insane. Hopefully this helped. If it did, please subscribe, leave a comment. I don't even know if I can upload videos this long, so we'll see. And then I'm gonna be making more of these next week. Maybe I'll make one about Mexico. We'll see. And then I'm planning some trips for this year. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Scotland and the UK again. I used to live in England, so maybe that we'll see. And hopefully I'll keep this going. So last thing, if you want to support me, you can purchase prints on my website or support financially there. And I'm always working on some sort of like a larger short film project. So that's where that will go. But thanks, and safe travels.